Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Tulley, President and Executive Writing Coach at Defend, Publish, and Lead. And welcome to episode 215, Take Stock of Your Professional Memberships. This is a shorter episode, but it's something that I've been thinking about for a while and doing a topic episode on it because it's something that I don't do all that often, but I feel like it's a necessary part of just general scholarly project management, scholarly time management, how you're interacting with your discipline, and so on. One of the things that I do, I try to do it once a year, is just to say, okay, which scholarly journals do I want to subscribe to? Which professional organizations do I want to go to? Which professional conferences do I want to go to? Because a lot of times all of those things are housed under the same umbrella. There might be a professional organization that has a conference, and then they have a journal subscription and several other items that go with belonging to the organization. And so I like to just think through, okay, I only have a limited amount of faculty development funding at my university. So where do I want to put that money? What am I doing to make sure that I'm making the most of any opportunities that I have? And so here's how I started thinking about this. And partly this came about because I realized I kept renewing a professional membership for an organization that I just really don't connect to anymore. They're just doing things that I'm just not all that interested in. So I don't really read the journal that goes with that organization. And then yet I'm still committing money to it and some other things where I might use that better elsewhere. And so there's a couple of ways to kind of think through how you might do this. I try to think about over the course of the year, how many conferences do I want to go to? How many journals really can I manage reading in a month? So, for example, one journal I have comes out quarterly. So that's when I do read, regularly. It's one that I only have to read it 4 times a year to get the new issue. So it's not a giant reading time commitment, and I enjoy the content. So that journal I know I'm going to keep no matter what. I have another journal that's for an organization that, in a lot of ways, just my research doesn't match up that well with it anymore. And that one comes out every single month. So every single month, I'm getting a paper journal or a print journal that I'm just not reading. And so I do give them away to graduate students or, there's other places that those can go, but it's just not the best use of funding. So just making some of these decisions ahead of time, just saying, okay, I know I want to go to 2 conferences a year. Here's the organizations that those conferences are associated with. So I might have to join those organizations to get the conference rate. And then, looking at any kind of scholarly journals as part of that package, what comes with it, what doesn't. And all of this is, I think, a bigger conversation to just have with yourself about workflow, about what you can reasonably manage. Many departments have cut professional development funding, or you don't have as quite as much. And so it's more important that some of this, some of the dollars that you're using stretch farther. But the other thing that I think through now is that more often, many of these scholarly organizations, they're cash strapped. I've been on the executive board of one. I know what the financial picture looked like. And so one of the things I try to think about now is where do I want to put my dollars to where I want to be as a scholar, but where I'm interested in some of the conversations in the field. So, as we get into, we're in February right now when this episode is being released. A lot of times these journals renew at the beginning of the academic year or possibly at the beginning of the calendar year. And some of them are on auto renew. So this is another thing. I was still getting a journal from kind of a sub-discipline I was working in about 10 years ago. And I realized, I'm like, I have had that journal on auto renew for so many years. And it's another one that, yes, I'll read from time to time if something looks interesting, but it's not something that is, something that it's essential. So a little homework for this week, maybe think through what journals are essential to, something that you actually want to subscribe to and have your own personal copy versus access in the library, whether you want it electronic or print. Look at those professional organizations again, think about which ones you actually want to belong to and participate in, perhaps on, some committees and things like that. And then also, what conferences are you thinking through in the next year? As you're doing it, it's also a great time to check out calls for papers and things like that to make sure you don't miss any deadlines. But I try to do this at least once a year when I use faculty development funding, but I also sometimes I'll look at it again when I get a renewal notice. So if you get one of those, like either in paper or an email, I will sometimes look at that renewal notice and just say, what would happen if I don't have this organization anymore or this journal anymore? And Occasionally, I will let something go. I also try to think about what new organization or journal I'd want to bring in. So I've mentioned this before. Textbook and Academic Authors Association is one of our podcast sponsors. I mentioned this also that, I like them a lot because I use everything that they have. I use their webinars, I use the free templates and tools and the resources and the free ebooks and, all of the great things that go with that organization. And it's the cheapest organization that I have. So I know for me, that's a non-negotiable. But then I started thinking, are there any organizations that are kind of like them that offer some of those things in a subject area? They do publication, scholarly publishing, but are there other organizations that offer that kind of robust experience? And one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm on the hunt for something like that in the areas of higher education, scholarly productivity, and so on. So if somebody knows one of those organizations, don't hesitate to drop me an email because I'm on the hunt because as we think through how we want to devote any funding that we potentially may have, it's also just a good mix of what kind of scholarship, what kinds of opportunity and conferences are coming across your desk as you decide what you're going to do in the next academic year. So, haven't done an episode on it, but I wanted to say something about it because I do think it builds into the other kinds of practices about how we read, how we write, where we get our information from, and so on. So, hopefully, this gave you some food for thought and happy writing this week.